Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first Inside Furman basketball of this current season. I am Dan Scott, the voice of the Paladins. We will be doing this every other Monday except for in 2 weeks, because Monday in 2 weeks is New Year's Day. So I believe we're going to do it on Tuesday, January the 2nd. Give us a chance to talk to Bob Ritchie and get some questions from our gathered media here. I'll give you some broadcast information and other things about the PC game here tomorrow night when we wrap this thing up in just a bit. But first, we'll ask Coach Ritchie for an opening statement, and then we'll get to questions.
Well, appreciate everybody being here, and looking forward to getting back out on the court tomorrow night. And last game before we get a little bit of a break, before Christmas, and get a few days away, and then got one more game, and then we open up conference play. So kind of coming around that last curve, before we get into conference play, and excited to be back at Timmons tomorrow night. Obviously, 7 of 11 so far outside of Timmons, so excited to be back in the arena. And really, for all our fans watching, it's really critical that we get as many people here tomorrow night as possible, with students not being here for finals, and really making this as jam-packed of a crowd as we can. And I know we're getting to the holiday season, and there's a lot of different obligations going on, but to make an effort to get here tomorrow night, bring your friends, bring your family, and let's try to pack this gym out. Presbyterian is they beat Vanderbilt, obviously, first week of the season, and have an SEC win under the belt. Very well coached, very efficient offensively, probably top 40 in the country in offensive efficiency, and they get fouled a ton, so we're gonna have to do a good job guarding tomorrow night, and should be a good challenge. Should be a fun atmosphere in Timmons Arena, and we're looking forward to getting out there.
Bob, you guys are battling some injuries, you're battling some tough competition, you've been battling the road. How is the team feeling right now, and how are they coming out of this as you guys get ready for that little bit of a break with the conference on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, it's the game the other night at Tulane was pretty hard ending. It was one of those situations where it felt like the game was won, and had a play that obviously didn't go our way, and kid made all 3 free throws. And I think at the end of the day, for us, we wouldn't do anything different in terms of how we scheduled, who we're playing. I think I said this in my last press conference. I think the league played 16 games in the top 150 in Ken Palmer. We've played 6 of those, so the other 9 schools had played 10 of them. And I'm really banking on the fact that's going to prepare us for league play. And I think what it's going to do is just like anything else hard in life. You find out who's determined, and then you find out who's discouraged and disgruntled, right? And you find out who your fighters are, and you find out who your flighters are. And I think right now we're finding some of that out with our group. We're finding out who are the ones, because once you get to league play, they're all fights, right? There's no more flight at that point. Like, you got to go fight. And hopefully what it does, some people have texted me and they've said, hey, this is really going to be favorable for you guys when it matters. And I think there's some truth in that, but that's not necessarily the truth. I think it's going to come down. It's our choice of our attitude. How do we process everything that's going on? And do we make excuses? Do we get disgruntled? Do we get discouraged? Or do we understand we're building, and we've shown progress in some areas, but there's still areas that we got to improve on? And for me as a coach, it's a fine balance, right? Like, you want them to be inspired, you want them to be excited. I did feel like the other night it had been a lot of fun to have a celebration with this team in New Orleans, but that wouldn't have given us a championship, right? That wouldn't have put us in a position to ensure us our ultimate goal, right? And I think what we've got to be able to be focused on is, hopefully with our group, you see an increased determination, right? You see somebody that they feel like, because we are, like, we're not an inch, we're not a centimeter. I mean, we're a hairline of having 2 huge road wins under our belt at Princeton and at Tulane, but we're not, right? It didn't happen. And so what you hope is that, like, you get so close that it makes you want to fight to get over the hump. But we know sometimes in life, some people fight and some people flight, right? And we've got to make sure as a group we stay together, we stay connected, and we look for, just like I told the team yesterday, I think it's really, in these situations, it's you can easily try to find answers, which are usually external, or you can try to find solutions, which are internal. And I think getting the group to really focus on, hey, we did still give up 47 in the first half at Tulane, right? We had 12 turnovers at halftime at Tulane. They had 4. We put them on the free throw line 16 times at Tulane. We had 6. So, like, yes, unfortunate, should have won, but put ourselves in a really tough situation getting down 16 in that game. And so, you know, yeah, we're right there, but then how much can we take some of this and show progress to get where we ultimately want to go?
Coach, do you have, by the numbers, the strength of this schedule as compared to when the first season you were here in 2017-18? And also, you know, the team seemed to be shooting the ball a little bit better the last 2 games from long range. Could you just comment on maybe the spacing and how it's maybe been better in those 2 games?
With the schedule, I'm kind of figuring out what's ahead. I haven't really looked back at the first couple of years. The schedule is what the schedule is, right? Like, we played the teams that were willing to play us. We wanted to challenge ourselves. There's not a person in our locker room that would do it any different. We know other teams have done it differently, and but that wasn't the choice that we made. And you know, we're at a point now where we feel like as a program, we want to go on the road and challenge ourselves. Do we wish we could get more big-time games in Timmins? 100%. You know, unfortunately, there's another team that's got to agree to that. You know, and so right now, we're getting these agreements to play on the road to start these series. But next year, we will get Tulane back at Timmins, and we will get Princeton back, you know, in Greenville. And you know, just off the top of my head, though, I mean, John, I'm sitting here thinking that year we got ranked. I mean, it's not close. You know, it's just not close. I mean, just thinking of the teams that we were playing, you know, it's a different day and time. And so you got to be able to understand that, right? I think even last year's team, as good as they were, like we've had I think we have played 2 teams in the top 150 at this point, whereas we've played 6, and you know, so that's just what it is. And we, like I said, I mean, I think in life you grow the most when you struggle, right? Because you got to make a decision. Am I going to strain, right? Am I going to strain? Am I going to stretch myself to really figure out how do we get the best? And you know, we just got to stay determined to keep doing that. And you know, I think there's a lot of positives. You know, a couple weeks ago, we're all worried if this team could shoot or not. You know, it's just couldn't quite understand some of the logic behind that because, you know, we got a D2 transfer that shot 45% from 3, and right now I think he's at 47%. And PJ Slauson obviously was off the team. He took a couple threes a game. Cooper doesn't really shoot. The rest of them are all the same guys, right? And you know, I think what we've seen here, what I've seen lately, you know, going back to really probably more so Princeton, Arkansas, Bob Jones, 33 assists the other night. I'll be honest with you, I think the ball's just moving more. You know, I think the ball is moving freer. And I think a lot of times, you know, shot making comes down to rhythm. You know, like you can just feel it, like you just can kind of see a possession and, okay, yeah, ball's popping. Defense is rotating, scrambling, bang, you know, or is the ball sticking and the ball's being bounced too much and then the defense isn't moving and then you're taking a shot. Sometimes those percentage-wise aren't in your favor. So I think you can just see more ball movement. You know, obviously a lot of worry how this team was going to score without Mike and Slaw, and it looks like we're scoring actually a little bit more. We're actually not as good defensively, and that's where we've got to continue to grow. Now, I will say, going back to strength of schedule, I will give you this. You can see strength of schedule in totality, but you can also see it in offense and defense. Like if you just look at the offensive teams that we've played against, okay, we've got the 25th toughest schedule against offenses. So where our defensive numbers don't look great, right, and they're not where they need to be, we've played a top 25 offensive schedule, right? And you throw, I think we were in the top 50s, and then we go play Tulane, who's, you know, a top 10 offense in the country. And we've really challenged ourselves with some really good offenses. And so hopefully it's showing us where we can continue to get better defensively. But I've got no issues with this team shooting. I mean, JP McGeesh, Alex Williams, PJ Smith, Marcus Foster. I mean, Carter Witt can shoot. His confidence, once he sees a couple go down, he's going to get more confident from there. Our bigs can step out and stick them. Ben's gonna continue to work on his shot. His percentage is gonna go up as the year goes on. We've got really good shooters on this team, and that's really, to be honest with you, it's the least of my concerns.
Every year has this. You have some significant new faces, talented players, obviously, for the first time. But there's always this time of year where the team becomes cohesive, not just talented. And do you see, I don't know, I think it's pretty obvious in the shooting percentages, but do you see that growth, and how do you see it maybe in a way that isn't obvious?
Well, I think, yeah, I've seen that growth. I mean, it's like I said, you can get really fixated on result, but you gotta also, for me, my job, I gotta evaluate how are we playing, and then are we taking pride in playing the way that we wanna play, right? Like, it's one of those situations where, does this look like the team that fits our values and what we believe in? And, for us, it's always been the same formula, right? We wanna be great teammates. We wanna have a league connection, right? We wanna be a team that can inspire people by how we play together. The culture that we have that can be displayed on the court in our biggest games, our biggest moments, that's always shine true. And I think we've really had to really get better in that area. I think going back to the South Carolina State game, I was watching the game, and it just didn't look like we had a real joy about us, and I think there's been some moments earlier in the season and in that game where we didn't look like we were enjoying one another. And, if there is a secret sauce in this stuff, it is the camaraderie, it is the chemistry and the connection that nobody really can put a metric on, like you just know if you have it. And, I think here lately, you watch us make that run the other night at Tulane, that looked like a really connected team, in that moment, in that period. I think you look at the Princeton game and probably one of our better defensive games of the year, you can see a connection in that game. And even Arkansas, finding out that we're gonna be without Marcus and, playing against a team that off that loss, how we lost at Princeton and that quick turnaround to see us go, compete in that game. I think our connection is growing. 33 assists in the Bob Jones game. You can say, hey, the opponent obviously was a lesser opponent, but that's not the first time we've played an opponent like that. And it was the second most assists in school history. And so I do think that it's growing. I don't think it's totally there. I thought we had a really good practice yesterday. We had some really good player-led accountability. We talked about our energy. We talked about our responses. We're trying to get a little bit more voice with this group, right? A little bit more on-court connection where you can see celebratory moments and you can see good positive emotion. I think that's part of what makes good teams good teams. And we're gonna continue every single day to push ahead in that area. But to answer your question, I don't think we're all the way there. I think we're a lot closer than we were here a couple weeks ago.
Coach, you've had a lot of injuries and had to deal with that, and has it been difficult trying to practice when guys have been out, and how do you get your rotations and things like that, because you had a lot of injuries so far this year?
My 7th year doing it, Tom, I've just never really been a believer in worrying about all that. It's just one of those situations where we have enough, and we had enough versus Tulane, we had enough versus Princeton, we had enough versus Arkansas. You have what you have. We have a really good team. I think what it's done is it's given guys opportunities to grow quicker than what they were going to be able to grow beforehand, because they've gotten different opportunities. And you look at what Alex Williams, what he's been able to come in and do. Well, he's had to, right? Because Marcus has been out, so we need another scorer. And so you look at our stats right now. We got 3 guys scoring more than 18 points a game. Okay, well, it's probably not gonna stay that way once Marcus comes back. But it's made Alex grow up, and so it's made JP wear a little bit more of that scoring burden that we know he can do and want him to do. I thought times earlier in the years he was probably being a little bit more passive than I would like. I wanted to be aggressive to score while he creates for others. But look at Carter Witt's emergence. Look at Carter Witt and the fact that first time in his career below a 30% turnover rate. Not only is he in the 20s, he's in the teens. He's 18 right now. Effective field goal percentage is higher than it's ever been for him. The confidence that he's playing with. And so there's guys, Davis Molnar, listen, you can talk about that play. That play was one of 100 plays that impacted that game. But we're not in that position if Davis doesn't get that offensive rebound and that putback, right? If he doesn't make some of the tough plays that he made earlier in that game to put us in a position to win. Well, Davis Molnar's been a benefactor of getting an opportunity because guys have been out, and he's grown, right? I mean, he's grown. Look how he played in Arkansas game. And so for me, you know, like, injuries are a part of the game, you know, and I think that coaches, when they get up and they start making excuses about injuries, I think you're really discrediting the rest of your guys in that locker room. And I think we have a really good team, and I think we got a lot of really good players. And I think what this is going to do is, if we can stay positive, not always a word I like to use. I think a lot of times in life, like, you got to be an optimistic realist. You got to know what's in front of you. And you know, if you get too pie in the sky, you can't really foresee problems. But I think we do have to look at this and say, hey, how is this going to ultimately shape us in a way that when we get a full team and we are complete, then do these experiences help mold us into the team that we need to be? And, you know, it's just one of those things you can't really control it. And you know, here's the practice time we have, here's who we have, here's the amount of people we have. Ultimately, we have to go get better. And I think the more you sit in some of that, you know, the less it can really energize your group. And so we've tried to just kind of push ahead and next man up mentality, and let's keep finding ways to get better.
My first one, the pinky ring. That's
Yeah.
a new addition.
It is a new addition. That's a good observation. This is our strength coach. This is an Aura ring, and he's worried about my sleep and my mental health and making sure I'm taking care of myself. So this is what we've done with some of our guys this year to kind of figure out. It's a little bit of a test run we're doing to see with our leadership council how effective looking at some of their sleep is impactful in their performance. And so we've taken 4 players and myself and doing a little bit of a case study. And, you know, LeBron James and some of these players are really out loud about the impact of sleep. I think what happens right now in sport, we're looking for the powders and we're looking for the pills and we're looking for all the tricks and all the tools. There's probably nothing better than just good sleep. And, you know, for me, I can really try to burn the candle at both ends. And this has been alarming. I've had this for, I guess, going on about 2 months now. And the competitiveness in me, it really bothered me my first couple scores, and really it was just the quantity of the sleep. And so, you know, it's been good. It's been good for me. I can see my stress in games. Some people have commented that I look a little bit more relaxed in some games. I was really stunned when I saw my stress level in the North Greenville game, and you know, it measures. Not to go on a whole ranted about this, but it is interesting. It measures stress, and then the category right below that is engaged, and then the category below that is relaxed, and then the category below that is restored. And I was not getting a lot of restorative time, and I was pulling in about 6 hours of stress on game days, and so I've had to be intentional there. You know, it's one of those things where when you become aware of it, then you're like, hey, this probably isn't good for my longevity, for my family, and for my health, for me to be wearing all this, and I probably got to manage myself a little bit better. And so I was actually proud in some recent games, you know, just getting the stress down about 2 hours, you know, and the day, really trying to find some restorative time in the day, and walks, and reading a little bit, and making sure that, you know, leadership, always trying to be a better leader. You can't really give any, you can't, you know, you think about the analogy of pouring into people. It's really hard to pour anything out of an empty cup, right? And I've got to make sure as a leader that I've got my cup where it needs to be. And this has been huge. My wife, Jessica, who you're friends with, she got so fascinated with it, she got one. So we're Team Aura Ring over here. And I wish I would have gotten it on this finger so it looked a little bit more normal. I think you probably noticed because it's on my pinky, but that's what Aldred ordered, so I just went with it.
I would have noticed just a ring on your other hand, but the conversation in mid-major basketball about that turnover, right? You make it to the dance, and then you're in a rebuild again, and you were really adamant that you weren't going to be in a rebuild this year. I think people expect it to get tough. You lost 2 well-tenured guys here. How hard has it been, and are you surprised by any of that transition coming off of the most epic year in Furman basketball?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think it's a lot different than last year, I really don't. I mean, I think that we lost to High Point at home last year, and that's no disrespect to High Point, you know, they came in here and beat us. We go down to Charleston last year, and people think we're supposed to win, we lose 2 games out of the gate to Penn State and Old Dominion, and it's like, man, what's going on? We go to NC State, Beth, we got beat by 30. I mean, the game was they ran us back to Greenville as soon as the ball got tipped in the air. I mean, it wasn't even a close game. It was one of our worst beatings ever, you know? So I think when you look at that and you put the schedules up against each other and you see one that's a little bit more challenging, had we taken care of business at Princeton and had we finished that game at Tulane the other night, we have the same record as last year's team with a much tougher schedule. And that's what I've tried to tell the team is we're literally 2 plays away from feeling like we're better than last year's team at this point, right? And then now we're 2 plays away from feeling like, as you said, are we in a rebuild? You know what I mean? Like it's why we all watch this stuff. It's why we're all enamored with it, right? It's just like, hey, where is this team? You know, like for me, our offense is really, really good right now. And I think that's where a lot of people thought, like, man, are they gonna be able to keep scoring at this pace? We've been fine there. I think defensively, you could say, okay, well, we struggled defensively out of the gate last year. The biggest thing, we have good enough talent. There's no doubt in my mind on that. There's never been a doubt in my mind on that. I think this team has to continue to figure out its leadership. And I think that, you know, you could say, well, has that been more challenging in the losses? Maybe it's brought more awareness that it needs to be developed and it needs to be focused on, it needs to be figured out. Because we lost 2 dynamic leaders. You know, at the end of the day, like, you can talk about the players they were all you want. I mean, we've had really, really good players around here. We have really, really good players around here now. They were elite leaders. And when I say elite leaders, were they perfect? No, they weren't perfect. They really cared about this place. They were first and foremost about winning. It was their very last shot, and they carried a desperation and a determination about them that as the year went on, it just kind of became infectious in our group. And I think that's gonna be the biggest thing for us going forward. Can we continue to grow the leadership of this group? We're plenty talented. I mean, there's, you just look at games, I mean, you look at games last year, look at games this year. I've seen both. I just don't think it's really, like I said, I don't think it's as far off as maybe what, it's like, oh, you're 5 and 6. Well, yeah, I mean, look at the schedule, you know, look at some of the outcomes and look at what we've done. But I'm not in a situation where I thought, hey, this is going, I didn't think it was gonna be necessarily easy, but I think it's just like, it's an upside, right? Like it's looking at a good stock, you know, like you wanna see growth in it. Like this is an upside team, and this is a team that if we have the determination and we have the connection and we're coachable and we have some internal accountability that we can continue to grow, we're gonna be as good as we need to be, and we're gonna be right there to win a championship again, and I have full confidence in that.
Bob, I've had a couple of off-the-air conversations with Alex Williams, and you know Alex can be a very engaging young man, and I knew I was gonna like him when he came into this program a couple of years ago out of Cincinnati. I asked him the only question that matters coming out of Cincinnati, Skyline or Gold Star, and he had the right answer, because there's only one answer to that, Skyline. But it's been interesting to watch his.
Are those moving companies?
No, that's chilly, man, come on. Come on, Bob. It's been interesting to watch his progression. Not only has he remade his body since he came in here, I don't know if attitude or mindset are the right words, but there's obviously a change in him from his freshman year to you. Can you just talk about the progression that we've seen in him as a player and as a person since he walked onto this campus?
Well, it's always rewarding, Dan, when you get to have a convicted philosophy of how you coach and why you coach and seeing that carry out. You know, people heard me say this a lot my first couple years, especially when we got ranked. And, you know, we got more attention and everybody's asking, you know, what's our philosophy? And, you know, to be able to really tell people like, hey, we believe that if we can develop the person, the players come right behind it. And in hard moments, you know, of just really, you know, when things aren't going exactly how you want them to go, to continue to feel the purpose as a leader to develop people. And I told the team this week. I said, you know, guys, it's a really two-part equation for me. Like, I want to see you grow as people, and as a byproduct of that, I want to see this program grow. And every single day when I walk in here, that's the filtration for every decision I make, for everything I tell you, the amount of truth I give you, the amount of encouragement I give you. When I'm having to push standard on you, when I'm having to push love on you, we're just trying to help you grow. And, you know, you go back and it's well documented, Jalen Slauson's growth, right? You can continue to see it and the impact this place had on him. And you can see Mike Bothwell's growth. You know, you can see when he had to go through his whole thing in Israel, he wants to be here with us. You know, he wanted to be with the team. You can see Rhett Lister and Jordan Lyons and Matt Rafferty and Andrew Brown and Jeff Beans, and we just keep going down the line, right, of the impact this place has had on people. And, you know, when you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, wish we'd had another win or two or three, you still have to be true to yourself, and you have to understand your calling and your purpose, and knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, like, as we go through hard times right now, like, this is life, and we have to figure out how do we grow through this. I say all that to say this: I'm not sure I've seen somebody grow at the rate he has, and I've also probably not expected myself when I look back on it. You know, sometimes I feel like God just puts some things on your heart that, like, hey, you got to stay with somebody. Like this person needs you, and I felt like that with Alex, and I've been through a lot with Alex, and I'm not going to go through all the things that we've been through. But he and I, ironically enough that you asked that, he and I got into a conversation last night, and we were talking about some of the things that we've been through. And, you know, I told him that you know, it's amazing to see his growth in the classroom. It's amazing to see his growth with his body. It's amazing to see his growth with his mentality. It's amazing to see how he's handling all his business and how he's just starting to do his job better. And that whole philosophy that excellence is not compartmentalized, but the way you do anything is the way you do everything. You can start to see it shaping in his life. And I want to tell you this: we get those reports after every game in terms of just the load and how hard they're playing, and you get to see how many miles they've run, and you get to see all this accumulation data. Like, it's him, and then it's the rest. I mean, every time I get one of those reports, he's at the top of it. And that doesn't mean he's playing perfect. He knows that. He's got to continue to focus more on defense. But man, that boy's playing hard. And, you know, every single area of his life, there's been growth. And I'll tell you this without going into many details about it: the amount of adversity he's been through before coming here, it'd be an incredible story. You know, like when he gets that degree and he continues to push forward, to see moments where he could have checked out. You know, he could have decided this was too hard. He was getting text messages last year from people in his circle to transfer. You know, and for him to have stick-to-itiveness, and for him to stay through it, and him to work through it, it's really inspiring. And you know, we talked about this some last year, and I guess it's a little bit applicable now. Very few times in life, you know, does suffering not precede blessing, and he's suffered in immense ways, in a lot of different ways. But to his credit, he made a decision. You know, he made a choice that, hey, I'm gonna overcome a lot of this, and I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna quit making excuses, and I'm gonna quit feeling sorry for myself, and I'm gonna go use this pain. I'm gonna turn it into purpose, and that's what he's done. And I'll be honest with you, Dan, I don't think he's finished. You know, I think he's a unique talent, and you know, he's one of few people I've had here, maybe the only person. I really, you know, it's a matter of time if I have the time to get to the reps, and he can play all 5 positions. You know, like, it's really bizarre. I mean, we've been working on our post defense because people are shooting 61% of the rim on us right now, and he was better than any of our players in not just the technique, but the sheer force, the feet, you know, to be able to defend the post 101. He don't want to go down there full time, but put him at the 5 a little bit and let people figure out how to guard that, especially once Marcus gets back. You know, like, that's going to be a lot of fun. But he can bring the ball up, he can make decisions with the ball, he can post it, he can use a ball screen, and boy, can he shoot it. And he's fearless. You know, like, he's fearless. And you know, I know I'm talking a lot about him, but I appreciate you asking that, for one. But for two, those are always the fun stories, you know, when he texted me last night, literally just to check on me, which I thought was pretty neat. And, you know, for us to have kind of that little back and forth and for him to say, hey, you know, I need you to continue to be that father figure for me. That's what wakes you up. You know, that's what allows you to keep pushing forward in this. And it's why I know we have a chance to have a special group.
Coach, one of the hallmarks of any championship team, I think, is turnover margin. And, you know, I think there was 12 first half turnovers at Tulane, which led to, I think, 10 points. Is that a concern for you at all? Because this team does seem to be turning it over at a little bit higher clip than maybe previous years.
Yeah, it's a huge concern. You know, it's one of those areas where I wouldn't say we necessarily have taken it for granted, but we've always done a couple of things really well. You know, we've always spaced the floor well. We've always shot the ball well. We've always made layups, and we've always taken care of the ball. And, you know, when you look at our numbers, the biggest thing that's sticking out in totality in terms of a difference from our 7 years would be how much we're turning the ball over. And, you know, I think there's a number of factors to that. The scheme's the same, the drills are the same, you know. I do think there's a little bit of everybody trying to do a little bit more. You know, I think you've seen here lately a little bit more of trust the offense. Like, you know, I was talking to a front office NBA guy a couple weeks ago, and he used the term. He's like, you know, you don't want to get ahead of your skis, you know. And I thought that was a really good analogy. Like, I think at times when you watch us, we're just trying to do a little too much, you know. And we've got so much talent out there, and we've got great concepts with great space to get them to trust the action, trust the connection, trust the concept. Just move the ball, move bodies. Eventually, we're going to really get a great look, and then have the confidence to go knock that look down. When you start trying to go to the tee box like Happy Gilmore, like bad things start to happen, right? I mean, that's a little bit what we look like at times, just trying to drive in there on two, you know, two people. You know, our philosophy is beat one, don't beat two, like get the ball out. When you over penetrate, you know, one of the things that this team's doing more than most is just launching on passes. And we've always been a 2-foot program, you know, and it's funny as you get success, you know, they always tell you success is harder to deal with than failure, because you start to think like, hey, well, do I need to play on 2 feet? Well, I can jump up there and throw this ball. And then now you go play Tulane, and they're playing the matchup zone, and they're 6'5" to 6'7" all the way across it. And we're just launching it, you know, and they're playing with hands up, and they're deflecting it. And the best thing they do is run. And so you get to halftime, and we've got 12 turnovers, they've got 4. And I think for us, you know, there's 3 areas where you can kind of break the game down. And when you look at the complementary components of the game, who's winning the turnover margin? That's a big deal. Like, that's a big deal around here. It always has been, always will be. When I looked at all those numbers a couple weeks ago, we were -2 in that. And we've never been like that. We've always created turnovers, which has generated our offense. And then we've always taken care of the ball, right? Who's winning art? Well, for a while, every one of my years, we've had a higher percentage than our opponents in totality, right? Well, up until a couple weeks ago, we were 32%, our opponents were 34%. And then who's fouling more? You know, like who's playing with disciplined aggression, who's giving the freebies the most efficient shot in the game? Are we playing with disciplined aggression to where we're not fouling? And when you look at that, like, we've got to get better in all 3 of those areas, right? The middle one we've done a better job shooting the ball, as you alluded to. Turnovers, we have not. Now, when we made the comeback the other night, all of a sudden, right, we weren't turning the ball over, and they were turning the ball over a little bit. And then we got to quit fouling, right? We had committed 11 fouls at halftime of that game in Tulane, and they had committed 5. So they shot 16 free throws. We shot 6. And that's just discipline. You know, that's just discipline. But the turnovers, you know, will we trust it? Will we trust the movement? The more we pass it, the more we get it. You know, the paradoxes of the game that always ring true, right? The more we pass it, the more we score it. You know, am I going to be a sacrificial cutter, or am I always going to demand the ball? And I think once they see that, hey, shots are going to come easier, and guys look like we've averaged 80 basically every year, you know, just trust it, right? Just space it, just run it, just move it. That those are our easiest buckets. And man, I'll tell you what, in that Tulane game, we had it's almost like you can have a teaching tape of both. Like, here's how you don't play offense, and here's how you don't take care of the ball, and then you could have another teaching tape from the same game that is a clinic on how you move it, how you share it, how you secure it, and it's like, man, this is the same game, right? We just got to get consistent.
Much of the subtext of what you've talked about has basically been about the tangible and the intangible. You study the analytics and you see the way it is, but the intangible factor is doing that in the conditions that you're playing in. This is in every sport. People say you should go for 2 in football every time, but with the pressure of a game on the line, it changes the outcome. Now, those close losses to Princeton, and well, in some ways UAB, but I mean losing to Tulane as well, they should teach you, ideally, to cope with adversity and learn how to surmount it. And that's probably the process, which is the whole groundwork of the way your schedule is laid out. But how do you feel about that right now? I mean, every team learns how to win, and they start winning more of those games than they lose. And those heartbreaking big games can go either way.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about that?
Let me be really clear about something, okay? I'm as excited about this team as any team I've coached. And there's no doubt in my mind on that. There's a clear, it's almost like when you're getting on your phone and you're trying to figure out where you're going, and you punch in the address, and then the iPhone deal like gives you like 3 routes, okay? We got about 5 routes. Now we gotta be the team that's learned from experience that says, hey, this is the fastest and this is the best. And there's gonna be a couple bends in this thing, and there's gonna be a couple reroutes, but this is the best way to get there, okay? Are we gonna choose that? Right? Like, are we gonna make the choice to choose the correct path? And I think what happens is, when you look at it, can we get there? 100%. Are we as far off as people think? No, we're not. You know, like, I think the challenge of it is, are we gonna come together and figure out, hey, what you alluded to, that's always been the secret for us, right? Like last year, like, all we talked about, we gotta have more joy in how we play. We gotta look like we're having fun out there, right? This is a game, right? This is basketball. Like, we're taking an orange ball and putting it in an orange ring and running up and down the court. Like, it's a game. But what success does for all of us, okay? If you go get a raise tomorrow, you just want another one the next week, right? If you buy a bigger house, then you live in it for a year and you want a bigger one. If you get a nice car, you drive it for 2 years and you want a nice one. And what success tends to do is it can make everybody want more, right? Like, hey, man, Furman got drafted. Well, that's the first one since '84, right? Like, it's really hard. Yeah, it can be done, but there's no there's no vending machines for pro players out here. You know, like, a pro is a pro, and they've got to have the determination, they've got to have the work ethic, they got to have the attitude, right? And like, there's a million kids trying to be pros. Well, Slaw was a pro, right? Like, well, all of a sudden now, success. Hey, we got a couple guys that can do it. You know, we do. I'm not saying they will, I'm not saying they can. But there's some guys in that locker room that are talented enough in a 2-year journey that they could be in that same conversation. But they gotta keep winning. They gotta keep putting themselves in positions to be on those stages for that to happen. Well, I wanna average those points that Mike and Slaw averaged. Well, it's not just simple logic here that just 2 guys are gonna decide that they want to take over those 2 roles. When you have success, now 8 guys wanna take over those 2 roles. So then me as a leader, I've gotta be really clear, like, hey, this is how this thing needs to look. And I think that's the puzzle has been, you know, a little bit different than maybe I would have expected. There's some things that I had foresight on that said, hey, we're gonna have to watch this, and this could be a little tough and navigate this. And self-admittedly, there's been a few things where, like, man, I didn't really expect that, you know, but that doesn't demoralize me. It just makes it to where, hey, like, that's just a new challenge. That's a new piece that we've got to figure. And you know, I think that's what excites you. That's why you do this. But I hope, you know, and I don't know, maybe some people think that, you know, I hope nobody thinks I've lost faith in this group. I know exactly where this team can be. I've coached a fair amount of teams. I've been around a fair amount of groups, and I know the least of my concerns is our talent, right? The least of my concerns is our talent. My concern is, will we continue to have the connection that produces the joy in the game, that we all play this game together, and we have a common goal of what we're trying to do, and then at the end of the day, that through that, our leadership emerges, that when you come watch us play, like you say, hey, that's our leader. You know, like last year when you watched us play, who did you think our leader was?
I would say Slauson.
You would say Slauson. Certain nights, you would say Bothwell,
Well, that's,
right?
you didn't make it multiple choice.
But you knew at the end of the day, like, those two guys were gonna lead this thing through thick and thin. And when one of them fouled out in the biggest game of the program's history, all right, he had the leadership moment, and he said, hey, this is what we're about to do, and the kid was not, he was done. He literally took the huddle and said, hey, we're gonna go win this game, and the other leader went out there and scored 9 straight points. And so now they're in the office right now hanging up pictures from the Virginia game, because 2 kids decided to lead. It wasn't like we sit around and look at that like, oh, Virginia win, oh, roses, like it was all easy. Guys, last year was hell at times. Like it wasn't just, oh, this thing is all paved and all smooth. Like, you have to navigate it. Like, you gotta work through it, and you gotta be willing as a team to say, hey, you know what? Like, yeah, that's not exactly how we want it to be, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna get there, and we're either gonna be disgruntled about it, and we're gonna fracture, right? Or we're gonna hold together, and we're gonna say, hey, how do we have to go get better? Mike Bothwell lead the Western Carolina semifinal game, when he hit that 3 down 3,
Oh, there was no shortage of leadership.
he's like, hey, listen, we'll put this thing on our back. We're gonna get to this championship game. Because at the end of the day, like, Mike had been through it. Mike had dealt with hard, and he stayed right in the thick of it. And he texted me after Tulane. It's the best text I got. I love both those guys to death. One of them cut it off after JP hit the shot and told me I coached a heck of a game, and he went about his business. And then 4 hours later, 2 o'clock in the morning, realized what had happened, and he texted me and apologized. Okay, that's our boy. You know, he's tied up figuring other things out. But Mike, on the other hand, sent me one word: calloused. And like, that's how he thinks, you know, because he's lived it. And he didn't send an explanation with that. He didn't send like, hey, this is why, this is what he knew. He knew what we were both saying to one another, and he knew what he wanted to communicate to me. That, coach, we've been through harder, we've been through tougher, and we've risen. And it's fall 7, rise 8, and that's how it's always gonna be. And just understand, like, calloused. And you know what? Like, hey, maybe we're getting some thicker skin right now. And if we are, we're gonna be hell to deal with. I know that. But we're gonna have to make a decision on what our attitude's gonna be. And everybody's gonna be worrying about us, figuring out, hey, listen, we just gotta keep pushing. And you don't have to worry about that for me. Listen, I've been through harder in Tulane now. I mean, come on, that wasn't a lot of fun. We've been through tougher. And we just got, and it's like I told the team the last time we went through something like that, we had no more games. We were like about to go to the tournament. We get to play tomorrow night. You know, we're 0-0 in the league. We're 0-0 in the league, and that's what this is all about. And it took me a few years to figure that out in my seat. It's a 3-game season at this level. Ain't nobody gonna be asking me what we did in December. Okay, I mean, I brought up High Point, y'all mouths dropped like y'all forgot it. Nobody gonna be asking about Princeton and Tulane. Okay, that's not what this team's gonna be defined on. This team's gonna be defined on what we do in 3 days of March, and we've got to have the maturity to keep pushing, and I trust that we will. So,
How is Marcus Foster?
Wait, hold on. We've got to say on that, do you have that now?
yeah, we have it. We need more reps. Like one thing we've forgotten a little bit is, like, those 2 kids came back, but let's not forget, like, 2 years ago they were prime leaders on that team too.
Right, and
see
you
what I'm
guys
saying?
didn't make it to the tournament. So, like, that's the conversation, is like, you believe it, you know what it takes, you see it. Does your team right now have it, or are you coaching it?
we have the capability to get there. And I'm not trying to get coach speak here. JP Pegues is one of the best natural leaders I've ever been around in terms of we all have gifts. Everybody in this room has things that we were given, we didn't earn, right? It was just gifts. He's got a presence that's a gift. If you've watched him play and you see him in that mode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We all were at the SoCon tournament. We all saw him hit the shot. If you watch the last 10 minutes of the Tulane game the other night, it's this aura that he has on him that when it's flowing and his mindset is free and he's confident and he's engaged, I'm not sure there's been a better leader come through here. He's got the alpha, like he's got that gene. But this is new for him, you know, in this particular team, this particular role. Like, another part about this is, like, people undervalue how hard that is. You know, like, people think, oh, that's just a slide in. That's not just a slide in. Like, that's something I have to help him with, right? Like, this is new, you know, and I think you look at his qualities, like me as a 20-year-old, right? Like, I had some gifts that, hey, okay, I potentially can lead, but I was also like, I had to grow up in some areas, right? Like, that's my job. Like, I'm with 18 to 22-year-olds all day long that have gifts that need to be produced, and once they are able to go out and just go exercise their natural gifts, then now all of a sudden, like, we're all going to be looking back and saying, man, JP Pegues, like, wow, what a story. But that doesn't mean that we can have this expectation that he just fills right in, and then he doesn't have the pressure to keep this going. He doesn't have the pressure to go average 20 a game, and he's got to go get guys shots, and everybody's shot, and then we lose one, and we think that he's not human, and that he doesn't feel that. You know, like, those are the things that we're working through. Like, it's not. I think that my optimism wouldn't be as high as if I didn't see that we have the leadership ability. Garrett Heen has leadership ability. I'm gonna tell you the most undervalued leader on the team is the one that Dan asked me about. Alex Williams, like, maybe not today, but tomorrow, like, it won't surprise me in 10 years he's running some type of business. He's got people skills, he's got presence. But here's where it all comes down, and this is where I'll kind of answer your question. A guy named Mike Taylor, that was a little bit of a mentor to me, is from Charlotte, and his son was a walk-on for us at Charleston Southern. And he's somebody I kept in touch with, and he lives close, basically in Rock Hill. He was an executive, you know, in the banking industry for a long time. In my last year here as an assistant, we played at Winthrop, and some of you might remember the game. It's the game where, man, I'll be honest with you, it was about as heartbreaking as the Tulane game. We were we were up 2, I'm sorry, and they had the ball underneath out of bounds. They threw the ball out. The kid catches it going away, turns around and banks in a 3 to beat us. Well, that morning I had coffee with Mike, and I was, 32, 33 at the time, something like that, 33. And I was telling him my goals. You know, I want to be a head coach one day. And what do I need to do to get there? What can you teach me from a leadership stand? And he looked me dead in my face. We're sitting up in there, and he said, hey, you know what? This is what I'm going to tell you. He said, in order for you to be successful, you're going to have to go from being a salesperson, recruiter, assistant, okay, to a leader. And the biggest thing I see in the business world is when salespeople get promoted to leadership, they still think it's just about their territory. And they still think it's just, am I producing? And what happens is the ones that are successful, when they become leaders, they quit worrying about, am I producing? And now I've got to put myself in a position, am I leading 10 other people, and am I helping them produce? And am I learning to manage the responsibility of the entire operation? And he looked me dead in my face. He said, hey, great salespeople are not always great leaders, but it's the ones that can get over. Is it just about your territory, or is it about the whole entire organization? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, it was like, wow, so simple, but so true. And I think in leadership and in life, that's what it comes down to. People think that, like, your position gives you leadership. Your position never gives you leadership, right? Like, that gives you an opportunity to be a leader. But am I going to take the responsibility of the culture, right? Of like, hey, are we playing the right way? am I leading these people to where they want to follow me? And I think for the guys on our team, to answer your question, yes, we have that, but they're having to make that shift. You know what I mean? Like, they're having to make that shift, and it's not an easy one. But I was telling one of them the other day, like, if you do it, you'll look back on this, and it will be the best thing this program could have taught you. And I think that, listen, maybe it's my blind optimism, but I think some of this adversity can accelerate this, right? Like, and I told the team this other day, I mean, I'll tell y'all all the memories from last year. Like, if you do it, one of the hardest ones and one of the most impactful ones that I don't know how much I've talked about publicly, and I don't think he'd mind me sharing this, but when we lost this home game in Greensboro, Mike Bothwell, like, couldn't leave the locker room. I mean, it was like it was, you could say crying. I mean, it was like an agony. I mean, it was just like, it wasn't a panic attack, but it was like a hyperventilation type. Like, it was like, hey, like, this has to change. And there was this, you know, he's texting me that night, like, hey, whatever we have to do, like, we gotta get there. Like, what do we have? How do we? And it was this moment of, like, the hard produced this acceleration that, hey, we've got to desperately just eliminate everything that doesn't have to do with winning. And I think from that point, you know, you win 15-16, and we go on that magical run. But it was his decision at that moment that, hey, this is how we have to go about this. And I think this team's still learning some of that. And I think we're closer. But hey, listen, easiest thing to do in life is to be passive, duck it, push it on. But I think with Marcus and with JP and Garrett and Tyrese and Alex Williams and PJ and Ben and all the people, like, we've just got to understand the severity of the leadership and how serious that is, and how we have to make sure that we get there, because I think that's one of the commonalities of all great teams. They have great player-led leadership. Good question.
We need to get into wrap-up mode, so I'll ask you to make an opening statement, and in that, if you would answer the question Tom started, which is an update of any kind you can give us on Marcus Foster.
Yeah, he's progressing well, and he's got a follow-up appointment today, so we'll know a little bit more after that. You know, it should be sometime in January. We just don't know exactly when, and you know, some of that's going to be how the recovery goes, and you know, just how his body, you know, basically deals with all the rehab. But we feel like range of motion is getting better, you know, probably a little bit quicker than we anticipated. One thing about Marcus is he is extremely diligent in how he goes about his business and how he goes about his recovery. So he's done everything and more. And I think I saw him in there, 2 individuals yesterday with Coach Parker. So, you know, he can hardly shoot, but he's sitting in there doing form shooting and, you know, doing the things that he needs to do. So we're hopeful that you know, mid-January, you know, possibly late January, but somewhere in that window.
Just final thought heading into PC tomorrow?
Yeah, just again, you know, I think we had a really good day of practice yesterday, and you know, excited to get back into Timmons, and hopefully we get a good turnout, and you know, have one game, you know, before we kind of go into a little bit of a quick break for us for the holiday. And you know, good team, like I said, got a lot of respect for what Quentin's done there. You know, just how he's got his guys playing, and you know, they compete, they really do, they play well, they really play downhill, and you know, really get the ball to the basket. Got a couple post players that, you know, can really cause some problems and get fouled around the basket as well. So we'll have our hands cut out for us, but I'm hopeful, and you know, I hate using the word hopeful, but based on what we saw practice yesterday, and we're about to practice here in a little bit, that we're going to have a team that's excited to be in the stadium. And you know, that's the goal, that we come out playing for each other, and we come out looking like we're enjoying playing one another, and that it's just a good fundamental Furman basketball day of being great teammates and flying around on D and moving and valuing the ball. And hopefully, John, we're talking about it after the game tomorrow night, the turnovers have come down. And you know, I got people texting or direct messaging. I mean, that's where this stuff gets to now. I got DMs to my wife's phone on what I need to be doing to get our turnovers right. It's amazing, but that's just kind of what it is now. So, you know, we're doing everything we can. I promise you to fix it and get it better. And so we're going to keep pushing and go go out there and try to take care of this thing tomorrow night.
All right, Coach, thank you very much. I'll just remind you that it's a 7 o'clock tip-off tomorrow night here at Timmons, ESPN Plus television broadcast. The radio broadcast begins with the Pepsi pregame show at 6:30 via the Fan Upstate. Santa Claus will be here tomorrow night for the kids, and it's also an opportunity for you to get in. If you don't have tickets, you can get in for just $5 if you bring a brand new unwrapped toy. And that, of course, will go to a needy child, and that'll get you a $5 ticket. And then don't forget also the Season Swishes package that is available, 4 tickets for just $20. And that is for the games tomorrow night against Presbyterian and the Anderson University game here on December the 30th. We will do this again on Tuesday, January 2nd, and then after that, we'll fall into our every other Monday routine. Thank you to head coach Bob Ritchie. Thank you to everybody who is gathered here for the coach. I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you so long, everybody. This has been a